BFM 부산 영어방송.
Transforming our world. Navigating toward a better future. The great transformation begins right here in Busan through the 2030 Busan World Expo. Busan will set a new course toward a better tomorrow for the Earth and for humanity. So we need your support to start a new movement.
I support.
지지합니다.
I support. I support.
지지합니다.
I support. I support.
Busan, the city where you can experience nature, technology, and people. The one and only 2030 Busan World Expo awaits you.
See you right here in Busan.
See you right here in Busan. This campaign is brought to you by BFM 부산영어방송.
부산 영어방송에서는 국제도시 부산의 차세대 글로벌 리더들을 위한 청소년 영어 말하기 대회를 개최합니다.
BFM will hold the English speech contest for the next leaders of Busan City.
문화 교육 특구, 자랑스러운 동래구의 청소년 홍보대사들이 이야기하는 부산의 동래는 어떤 모습일까요?
I'm going to introduce my hometown 동래.
The name Dongdaegu came about in 1957.
Mountain Gumjeong's appeal its charm whenever the season changes.
There are 동래 파전, 동래 octopus, and 동래 rice soup.
From the stories of students in Dongdaegu, a representative traditional district in Busan, we can imagine the future of Dongdae and look forward to the bright future of the global city Busan.
2차 예선을 걸친 최종 10인의 본선 대결, 그리고 참가자 50인이 펼치는 영어 도전 골든벨에서 지역 청소년들이 꿈꾸는 부산의 미래를 확인해보세요.
We invite you to the Dongdae Youth English Speech Contest on August the 26th at 2 p.m. at the Dongdae Cultural Center.
이 행사는 동래구청과 BFM 부산 영어방송이 함께합니다.
The time is now 2 o'clock.
Welcome to BFM News at 2. I'm Haeyeon Park. In national news, leader of the Democratic Party Lee Jae-myung was questioned by prosecutors again about alleged corruption in a Seongnam land development project. He appeared at the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's office and reiterated claims of political motives behind the charges and accused investigators of using the case to divert attention from the current administration's failures. He warned that a government suppressing its people will face consequences and encouraged his potential arrest during a non-session period in the National Assembly. Lee is suspected of altering permits for a project during his time as Seongnam mayor in 2015, benefiting private companies at the expense of the city. This marks the fourth time Lee has been summoned before prosecutors for questioning. Starting next semester, the Education Ministry has announced that students from elementary to high school levels could face removal from classrooms or have their mobile phones taken away if they cause disruptions. This new policy, designed to bolster teachers' rights and authority, responds to their call for protection from abusive parents and students. The change follows a recent tragic incident involving a teacher in southern Seoul. From September 1st, teachers will be allowed to confiscate cell phones and other disruptive items. They can also use physical restraint or request disciplinary action against disruptive students. South Korea has sent emergency supplies to assist Hawaii in recovering from recent wildfires on Maui Island. The South Korean Consul General in Honolulu, Lee Se-young, delivered water, food, blankets, generators, and other aid items to Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke. This aid is a part of the $2 million humanitarian assistance pledged by Seoul. It includes $500,000 in relief supplies and $1.5 million in cash for the Hawaii Community Foundation. The death toll in the Maui wildfires is now 110, marking the deadliest U.S. fire in over a century. Shifting gears to local news. A Busan court has rejected a lawsuit filed by Busan civic groups opposing Japan's planned release of Fukushima wastewater into the ocean. The Busan District Court dismissed the case today against the Fukushima nuclear plant's operator, Tokyo Electric Power Company TEPCO, deeming it unsuitable. The court cited international conventions such as the London and Vienna Conventions and stated that citizens of one country cannot halt actions of another. The court also found recognizing international trial jurisdiction difficult under the cited Article 217 of civil law. The legal counsel for 166 civic groups who filed the suit in April 2021 criticized the court's decision and announced plans for an appeal. The southern region of South Korea, including Busan, Ulsan, and Gyeongnam, has seen a significant rise in non-family households as the country's family structures become more diverse. Non-family or non-normative households consist of individuals not related by blood or marriage. Data from the Southeast Regional Statistics Office indicate that such non-family households with 5 or fewer members increased more than twice between 2015 and 2021. And the number of household members also doubled to 120,000 in 2021. However, 90% of non-family households consist of 2 individuals. In international news, a migrant boat was discovered off Cape Verde in West Africa with concerns of more than 60 potential fatalities. Rescue efforts saved 38 people, including children, who were brought ashore on Sal Island. The boat, which had been at sea for over a month, mostly carried passengers from Senegal. Cape Verde officials are calling for global collaboration on migration to prevent such tragedies. Now for the local weather. It's currently 28 degrees Celsius in Busan on this cloudy day. Mercury levels will average at 27 degrees Celsius for the rest of the day amid continued overcast and normal air quality. It's time to wrap up this hour's news. Thank you for joining. You're listening to BEFM 부산영어방송.
Your best choice. BEFM 부산영어방송.
Coming up next is Steve Hatherly Reboot. BEFM 부산영어방송.
What you're about to hear is amazing. That's because you're locked in to Busan's #1 English radio station. Whether you're at home, at work, or driving in your car, you will be exposed to radio excellence. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show because it starts right now.
For the average fan of music, I think we can agree that the Beatles are probably the most recognizable band name from anywhere in the world. I mean, even someone who doesn't love their music is still likely to know who Paul McCartney and John Lennon were, right? Or are. Naming the other members, maybe that could be a little bit harder. But the Beatles, they were a phenomenon. But did you know they weren't master music readers by any stretch? In fact, they couldn't read music at all. I'll talk about that today. It's Thursday, August 17th, 2023. I'm Steve Hatherly. This is Steve Hatherly Reboot. Let's go.
In the town where I was born lived a man who sailed to sea, and he told us of his life.
That was Yellow Submarine from the Beatles, and Paul McCartney wrote the majority of this song. He explained shortly after it was released in 1966. Yellow Submarine is very simple but very different. It's a fun song, a children's song. Originally, we intended it to be Sparky, a children's record. Oh, okay, Sparky. We all live in a Sparky. I don't know how that would work. But now it's the idea of a yellow submarine where all the kids went to have fun. I was just going to sleep one night and thinking if we had a children's song, it would be nice to be on a yellow submarine where all your friends are with a band. Well, that sounds delightful. The Beatles, they really got creative at certain times in their career and in their music. And I think this is just one of those examples of their creativity. The Beatles get us going today. We're going to talk about the Beatles on the show this afternoon. We are live in the studio from Busan on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome to the show, everyone. You're listening to us on BEFM 90.5 in Busan, 103.3 FM in the Gijang, Jongguan, and Noksan areas, in Seoul on TBS EFM 101.3, and in Gwangju on GFN 98.7. I'm your host, Steve Hatherly, and just before we get going today, a quick note about YouTube. You can watch our YouTube live stream. Go over to youtube.com and search BEFM or Busan영어방송 in Korean. You can watch our live stream there. I think, as you know now, when the music starts, it will cut out because of copyright issues. And Napidi was very quick to cut off that Beatles song because that's a really sensitive issue on YouTube, apparently. Beatles music. You don't want to mess around with that one. So we know it's inconvenient. We wish we could change it right now. We can't. We hope that it can be changed in the future. But as of right now, that's the way it is. So that requires you to do a little bit of multitasking. That means that you'll have to have your YouTube open to our live stream and then listen to the music through the app or through FM radio. You can still listen to me when the music's not playing, then the audio will come back. But I think you're pretty familiar with how it works now, but just letting you know in case you're hearing about this for the very first time. All right, let's talk about what's on the show today. Coming up in hour number one, we will kick things off, as we always do, with today's Hot Off the Press. You'll hear some trendy music that has been newly released. I'll give you a bit about the artist and a bit about the track as well. After that, Cheryl will be in the studio for today's Parenting 101. Cheryl will introduce some news about childcare, perhaps, and parenting, and then we'll listen to her experiences as well. And today we're going to talk about, I'll give you a little preview, parental phubbing. You know what phubbing is? I wasn't familiar with this word, but it seems like everybody else around me knows exactly what this word is. But for parental phubbing, it has something to do with phones, and Cheryl will explain that in full when she comes into the studio. She will stay with me until the end of the first hour. Then in hour number two, for our fun fact of the day, we're going to talk about the fact that the Beatles could not read music. Is that surprising to you? Maybe, maybe not. For me, it made me feel like, how about that? I mean, it didn't really matter, right? For their success. In fact, you could say it did not matter at all. And it's not the only case, as a matter of fact. There are other cases of famous musicians or famous singers who don't read music, can't read music. It's a skill, right? You just learn how to do it, or you don't. And the Beatles didn't. So I'll talk about that today. Then for Remember This, History of the Boombox. Not my morning radio show, which, by the way, please listen to that Monday to Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. here on BEFM 90.5. No, the boombox, the actual boombox, the stereo, the thing, that big, heavy thing that we would put on our shoulders and carry outside. They're no longer really a thing, are they? Which is kind of sad. I mean, I'm sure people collect them. Old ones are still cool in my mind. I would love to have an old boombox. You know, you put the cassette in there. You've got the two big speakers, maybe more speakers on the side. And that was your portable player, because there was a time in our history when we did not have the ability to listen to music outside. Now, of course, we have our phones, right? Before the smartphone, we had our little MP3 players. Before that, we had the mini disc, if we wanted to use that one. We had CD players as well. We had cassettes. We had a lot of options, but there was a time when we couldn't take any of those outside with us. So all we could do to listen to music outside the house was bring the boombox with us, that giant, heavy thing. You needed to have strong shoulders and a strong arm to be able to pick it up. But if you think about it, it makes sense because, okay, you could listen to records inside your house. You could listen to the radio inside your house, but you're not taking those things outside with you. So the boombox was really revolutionary when it was created. Large, strong connection to hip-hop music in New York City, in the United States as well. I'm giving away too much, perhaps, because I'm really excited to kind of talk about this today. There's lots of music documentaries you can watch related to this topic, too. And that will be our topic for today's Remember This. We'll also have Today in Music. You'll find out what happened in today's music history, and I, of course, will check your messages throughout the program as well. Question of the day today. Well, you know, we gave you your rapper name before. That's where Na PD came up with the name Master Overlord. But today, I'm going to give you your band name because we're going to talk about the Beatles and we're going to talk about boomboxes. So I thought, well, let's give you a band name today. So here's the deal. Today, you are suddenly in a band, and I'm going to give you your band name. So all you have to do is send any message. You just say hi. All I need is your name. That's it. So how I'm going to put your band name together is your name plus random adjective. I have on my computer random adjective generator page open, plus random noun. I also have on my computer random noun generator open. So your name plus random adjective plus random noun, and that is going to give you your band name. If you want to start one, feel free to use that. I'll just take 10% of all your future earnings. That's it. That's it. That's very reasonable. I think, isn't it? In this day and age, I'm not sure. 여러분이 갑자기 밴드를 시작한다면 제가 밴드 이름을 알려드리겠습니다. 여러분의 이름을 알려주세요. That's it. All I need is your name. Beyond that, I will do the rest of the work. So text me, pounder sharp 9050. That will cost you 101. Add us on Kakao Talk for free and send in messages for free. Simply search BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us some comments after logging in. And that is all the information you need for now. So we'll take a break and come back with today's Hot Off the Press after Dua Lipa, Physical. was Physical by Dua Lipa. We are back, and it's time for today's Hot Off the Press, where from Monday to Friday, we bring you two of the newest, hottest tracks from the world of music, and a lot of songs are released every week. We pick out a couple each day that we hope you'll enjoy. We'll start today with Stephen Dawes and the track Happiest Girl. New York-based alternative pop singer and songwriter Stephen Dawes shares a brand new single. It's called Happiest Girl. About the song, Stephen said, he spells his name like me, by the way, Stephen. Did you know that? Have I ever told you that my name is actually Stephen, not Steve, and it's spelled Stephen? Anyway, I digress. Happiest Girl is about falling for someone and the moment in time where being in love was all I could think about. That was a quote from Stephen. Earlier this year, he released Lose My Mind, which has generated over 1 million internet streams and counting. And in 2022, he released the single It Could Be Me, which notably has racked up 3.5 million internet streams on its own. Very popular Stephen Dawes. We'll hear from him, and then Camille, Time to Kill. Brit Award-winning singer and songwriter Camille unveiled her latest single. It's called Time to Kill. The new track delves into the depth of a special romantic connection as she eloquently captures the essence of cherishing intimate moments with a loved one, describing the feeling of time standing still. She said, "I love that feeling when you just want to spend all your time with the one you love. When time feels like it stands still, this song is all about embracing that moment." Here we go with our two tracks for Hot Off the Press today. New one from Stephen Dawes, Happiest Girl, and a new one from Camille, Time to Kill. This is an emergency broadcast from BEFM. The Ministry of the Interior and Safety has issued a PSA as of 2:10 p.m. on August 17th, 2023, nationwide, including Busan and Gyeongnam. Currently, heatwave warning and heatwave advisory have been in effect nationwide. Please refrain from outdoor work such as rice paddies, fields, and construction sites from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., the hottest hours. Please thoroughly prepare for the heat wave by wearing airy work clothes, drinking enough water, and having short breaks frequently when working in a facility house or outdoors. When you go out, please wear light and loose clothes, wear a hat or bring a parasol, and carry water. If you have symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, or headache, please take a rest in a cool place. This was a message from the Ministry of the Interior and Safety. Before that, we heard, was that Dua Lipa just? Oh, no, our two tracks for Hot Off the Press today. Camille, Time to Kill, and Stephen Dawes, Happiest Girl. And speaking of music, that's what we're all about today for our question of the day. You don't need to do anything today. All you need to do is tell me your name, and I am going to give you your band name. Because we're going to talk about the Beatles in the second hour and the fact that they couldn't read music, which is kind of an interesting little factoid. I'll give you the details later. We're also going to talk about a boombox, the history of the boombox. So I thought, let's put you in a band today. All right, so let's get started. Here's how this works. All I need is your name, so just text me any way you want through your cell phone, 9050, hashtag 9050 for 101, or use YouTube, or use Kakao, any way you want. Just tell me your name and I'll put you in a band. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start with, let's start with Hannah today. Hannah. Okay, Hannah. It's your name, and then and then random adjective and random noun. That's how we're doing this today. Okay, Hannah and the. Okay, here comes your random adjective. Okay, I'm going over to the noun page now. 1 second, please. Hannah and the mini shame. I don't even know what that means. Cheryl likes it. Cheryl's here already. I'm going to give her a name in just a moment.
I know what a mini shame is.
Oh, you know what a mini shame is?
I felt mini shame.
Oh, yeah. Hannah and the mini shame. I want to do one more. Let's do Jason. Jason texted in. Jason, okay. Jason and the. I'm going to go back over to the adjectives. Jason and the. Back over to the nouns. I apologize. This isn't the most fun radio in the world. Just listen. Oh. Jason and the shiny box. Oh, that's okay. I like Hannah and her mini shame a little bit better than Jason and his shiny box, but it's not a competition. Everybody needs their own unique band name. So text me and tell me your name so that I can put you in a band. You're suddenly in a band and I will give you your name. 여러분이 갑자기 밴드를 시작한다면 제가 밴드 이름을 알려드리겠습니다. 여러분의 이름을 알려주세요. Text me, # 9050, that's for 101. Use Kakao Talk for free by sending messages for free. Add us as a plus friend there. Search BEFM or 부산영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us some comments after logging in. Okay. Cheryl and the...
Oh, no. Oh, no, it's not going to be mini shame, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's not bad.
It's not bad. I like it, actually.
I'm going to need a definition for mini shame in a moment because I don't know what that is. Oh, Cheryl and the left?
Uh-oh.
The left what? Cheryl and the left basin.
Basin?
Yeah, like a body of water, a basin. Oh, but that works because you love the ocean.
Oh, this is true,
You work in the ocean. Cheryl and the left basin. Okay.
But when you say basin, I think of like the sink in the toilets or something.
Would you want to change it to toilet?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
well, maybe.
Basin's better. What's a mini shame?
Just, you know.
Like small amounts of shame?
Small amount of shame.
See, I didn't even check if Hannah likes her band name yet. I'll have to check that a little bit later. How you doing, Cheryl? It's good to see you. It's time for Parenting 101.
I'm good. Bringing a little yellow sunshine into
we kind of match today, don't we?
Well, A little bit.
Yeah, you're more of the bright yellow, and I'm more of the pastel yellow today. All right, let's get into it. It is Parenting 101 time. And yeah, I mentioned it earlier on in the show that we were going to be talking about, where is it? Parental phubbing.
Yes.
Parental phubbing. I had to say at the start of the show that I didn't know what this was. I had never heard of it before.
This seems to be trending these days because I researched this a while back, and then 2 weeks ago, an article came up about spouse phubbing. So it is becoming a really big thing.
Well, we need to talk about what phubbing is.
Okay. So parental phubbing in particular refers to when parents are preoccupied with their phone, ignoring their children and the people around them. And the word phubbing means phone snubbing.
So this means that you are, you're talking to me about whatever. Could be something important, something not important, makes no difference. You're just talking to me, but I'm just looking at my phone, checking messages, surfing the internet. This is phubbing, P-H-U-B-B-I-G.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Spouse phubbing is a common thing, I think. Date phubbing.
I think it's just everywhere
everywhere.
days. Yeah.
Everybody does it. Friends do it to each other. Yeah. On the subway, it's just everybody's on their phone. So the key is, though, this isn't just being on your phone. This is someone has to be trying to talk to you.
Exactly, or get your attention. And you're just ignoring what they're saying because you're tethered to your phone.
Parental phubbing, then, I mean, I guess as adults, right, from friend to friend, if you and I are having a coffee together and you're talking to me and I'm just like, yeah. Oh, yeah? Like, I'm still responding to what you're saying. See, I'm guilty of this, actually. Yeah, my wife will be talking to me, but about nothing, just, whatever. Not a serious, like, marriage conversation. And I'll just be, like, checking, like a football score. And I'm still answering her questions, but she doesn't have my undivided attention.
Well, this is the key.
Yeah, the undivided attention.
Is the undivided attention.
Okay.
Yeah, even my husband, sometimes he's got his bud in his ear and I'll be trying to talk to him.
Yeah.
And he's not engaged. I don't know if he's listening or if he's hearing what I'm saying. So even though I'm sitting beside him, I'll send him a little message.
On his phone.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, isn't that a sign of the times? Goodness me. So I was going to say... I think when it's with adults, maybe we can be a little bit like forgiving and we kind of like whatever, right? But children, I'm guessing this might have a different impact on kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So according to a recent study in Frontiers, parents phubbing their children is associated with high social anxiety, low self-control in adolescence, which increases adolescents' risk of academic burnout and can also leave children feeling rejected and neglected.
Okay, all of the things that you just said, I get that about the rejection and feeling neglected. But I often wonder how these studies connect things like high social anxiety or low self-control during adolescence or a risk of academic burnout?
I know.
How do they make these connections between parental phubbing and what could go wrong with your children in the future? I'm not asking you for that answer. I'm just curious how they come up with these things.
Well, I've kind of got an answer for you. So according to a Dr. Jennifer Weber, who's a child and adolescent psychologist, she wrote that parental responsiveness to their children is what gives children validation and allows them to extend their own social skills.
Okay.
And without this responsiveness, children receive inconsistent feedback, and behaviorally, this type of inconsistency leads to poorly attained and retained skills. Because children learn from the parents' feedback, both positive and negative, if a parent is constantly on their phone, there's no feedback and there's no learning. So there's no communication and no model for social interaction.
I think that's important. The model for social interaction, the example for social interaction, because we're not talking about, your kids when they are 22 years old. We're talking about your child when they are 4 or 5 or 6.
2.
Yeah, I suppose so. And they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to communicate with you, verbal or otherwise, and you're basically ignoring them. What you're doing when you do that to your children, I guess, is that you're teaching them that this is a normal way to interact with other human beings.
Exactly. And also children whose parents fub them struggle more with self-esteem, self-control, and social skills in the long term. And they feel less special, learn fewer coping skills, and don't get a lot of examples of how in-person interactions are supposed to go.
Yeah, right.
And a child feeling ignored is just simply hurtful
I mean,
to the child.
anybody feeling ignored is hurtful to that child. But yeah, the point before was like, adults can see this as maybe a one-time thing, or maybe just an annoying habit that your friend has or your partner has or whatever. But children, they won't know that, and they won't see it that way. They'll be really hurt by this.
But the key to this, and this is something that's actually important when it comes to fubbing, is that this doesn't have to do with when you're answering an important email or answering an urgent text.
Okay.
This is typically when you're doing that mindless scrolling, looking at the football scores when somebody's trying to talk to you.
Sorry, what? I was just checking a football score.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point to make, is that this isn't every single time.
Exactly.
This isn't if you're on the phone in an important situation and your child needs your attention. That happens from time to time. This is, you're just laying on the sofa, not doing anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Those other times, that's acceptable to say to your child, just a moment, please. I'm busy right now. Oh, by the way, side note, I did see that on an episode of Oprah Winfrey many years ago, that with a very young child, if you're on the telephone and they're like, mommy, mommy, daddy, daddy, talk to him, play with me, and you say something like, 10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes, then that doesn't work with a child who doesn't understand the concept of time.
Exactly.
So they don't understand what 5 minutes is. So they'll hear 5 minutes and then they'll go away, and 30 seconds later they'll come back and say, mommy, mommy, I want to talk to you again. Right? So what did they say? On Oprah, they said you have to explain it in a term that they get, which was like, when I hang up this phone, I will give you your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll be talking about something like that next week as well, how children process information and how to talk to kids so that they can understand not right now.
I learned so much from Oprah. I really did. I never missed an episode of that show. She was my favorite by far. I missed that program. Let's take a break, shall we? And when we come back, we'll talk more about the dangers of phubbing. And again, we're not talking about if you're making an important phone call, sending an important text, or an email like Cheryl explained. We're talking about that mindless scrolling that everyone is guilty of doing from time to time, but it's harmful for your child if they're trying to communicate with you and you're ignoring them for the sake of the scrolling. More coming up with Cheryl in today's Parenting 101 after Crash Adams' Lucky.
A little more love.
Today with Cheryl in Parenting 101, we're talking about parental phubbing, which is mindlessly looking at your phone while your child is trying to get your attention and communicate with you somehow, and you, as a result of that mindless scrolling, end up ignoring your child. Hannah texted and said, I'm actually guilty of parental phubbing, but I quickly realized that it wasn't good for my relationship with my child, so recently I've been mindful trying to put my phone away when my kid is in the room. Which kind of leads me to the next question. I mean, how careful do we have to be? Because our phones are basically now an extension of our hands. Mm-hmm. They're a part of our body, and everybody's guilty of this. So are parents meant to, I mean, your child walks in the room and you just basically put your phone away? Is that the lesson that experts are teaching?
So we know that's impossible. It's not easy to reach for our phones when we hear a buzzer alert. We're conditioned, like Pavlov's dog at this time, to just reach for it as soon as we hear something buzz. Mm-hmm. But all the kids want is our attention, and having our phones in hand is a clear distraction that takes away from being present with our children. So when our children want to tell us something about their day or talk about how they're feeling, we do need to be open to the communication and put our phones down.
Mm. So it's not that you have to immediately hide your phone when your children walks in the room. It's that when they want your attention, then you have to respond immediately. But I have a question about that. Mm. If you are the person of authority, mm-hmm. and you are, right, with your daughter, you are the person of authority.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Right, is that, we're not supposed to use words like that?
No, well, I mean, she's a tween, so I think, the dynamic's changing at this point.
Okay, well,
but I should be an authority, yeah.
Okay, all right. But you see my point. Mm-hmm. You are in the position of authority. By responding immediately to your child every single time they want your attention, is that not potentially teaching them maybe a bad message, like they are somehow in control? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you're a little busy doing something on your phone, maybe it's not an emergency phone call or text message, but you're doing something, and they want your attention at the time. Is it harmful to say no? Sometimes hold on, just wait. I'm busy right now. I'll get to you in a sec.
Well, this is where it comes down to, is this essential phone use or is this the scrolling and the gaming? When it comes down to it, we do need to be 100% present for direct engagement.
Okay. Even if you are to say, excuse me, I'm busy right now. When I'm finished this, I will take care of what you need.
Exactly.
But by saying that, you're not phubbing. Mm-hmm. Even if you go back to what you were doing, you're still taking a moment to look them in the eye and respond to what they're asking you. Okay,
exactly.
I understand. Yeah. Okay, so this is a good lesson then. What about other things? I mean, is this only with phones, or what if you're like, I don't know, doing laundry, or what if, I mean, nobody really, well, no, I was going to say nobody really mindlessly does laundry, but you know what? Sometimes there's so much laundry to do that you do kind of mindlessly fold the towels.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Or you're mindlessly chopping the carrots for dinner. Does this apply to other things, or is this strictly with electronic devices?
No, this is strictly with electronic device, because what you're doing is you're modeling behavior. And that modeled behavior is something that kids are going to emulate.
Okay.
And they're going to start to do that too. If you're folding laundry, I think that's a fantastic thing for your kids to start to follow.
Okay, yeah. Or helping prepare with dinner.
Exactly.
Yeah, helping around the house.
Yeah.
But what about you? Have you not made a mistake like this before? I mean, with parental phubbing, ignoring your child? Because when you come here on a weekly basis, you make me feel like you're a perfect person and I'm a terrible person. Because
well, I've already said, there's been mini shame.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Not
the
perfect.
mini shame. Okay. I'm teasing, by the way. But have you run into this situation with your daughter? I'm guessing, judging from the way that you describe her, that she would call you out on this pretty quickly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if there is something urgent, then she does come to me and she does say, I need to talk to you right now.
She lets you know that this is an urgent situation.
Yeah, exactly. Or if I'm in the middle of doing an email or writing a script, then I'll say to her, can you just wait for a minute while I finish this up? And then she'll just wait patiently. But if it's urgent, she'll say, I can't wait.
Okay.
I need to talk to you right now.
Great communication. One of the things you mentioned before about one of the dangers of this parental phubbing is that your child will develop some sort of behavioral issues or self-control issues. How do those manifest themselves?
So the study cited in Frontiers found that when children don't see helpful modeling of self-control and social interaction from their parents, they struggle to deal with them on their own. So when a parent's constantly playing games on their phone or can't go an hour without scrolling or checking the phone, they're setting the example where there's a lack of self-control and the child will mimic what they've seen in the adults.
Because they're seeing their role model not behave well, not control themselves in that situation, and then they'll think, that I want to be like them. So that's what I'm going to do too. I get it. This is a new problem for parents, isn't it? Because when I was growing up, there were no smartphones. My parents didn't have to deal with I don't think it was called parental phubbing when you have a landline phone.
Not at all.
Right?
There was no phubbing at all.
No, exactly. So I don't think that was an issue that the parents of their generation, my parents' generation, had to deal with. And again, it's going back to that point that this is kind of, there's precedent being set everywhere these days because parents of this generation are growing up, raising children, digital children, if we can call them that.
Yeah.
And that's never been done before.
No, it's a whole new thing.
So it's just everything is a brand new learning experience.
Exactly.
So every time your daughter gets 1 year older and she develops new interests and starts doing different things, it's always somehow connected to the digital world. And you have to kind of just play it by ear and go with the flow and learn as you go.
I've been quite lucky, though, because my daughter is not so connected to games or social media. She's really an outdoors kid.
Lovely.
Yeah, she wants to be engaged in sport. She wants to be outside doing things. So she's not quite tethered to her phone yet.
It's your husband that's the problem.
Yes.
Did he hear me last week, by the way?
No, you didn't, but I mentioned it to him.
What did he say?
I said you should listen to the show more often because sometimes we talk about you.
Yeah, what was his response to that?
He didn't say anything. He was busy scrolling.
Oh, he didn't even hear you.
He was phubbing me.
Oh, what a shame. Well, actually, while we're on the topic, I know that this is a parenting segment, but any tips for married couples in how to deal with that type of situation effectively?
I think, if your spouse doesn't seem to be paying attention to you, just send them a message.
If I'm in the other room sometimes in our home, my wife will video call me.
I don't go that far, but I do send him a message.
She'll call my name and I don't hear her. So she'll call me on the phone as a result. Super convenient, I think. It's amazing technology and what it can do for us these days. Just one more quick question, going back to one of the major points you made before about academic burnout. Any information on how that's connected at all between the phubbing and the burnout?
Yeah, so when children become tweens and teens, they're less likely to speak up unprompted. So it's important that parents do the prompting and pay attention. If we're glued to our phones, we miss cues and chances for connections.
Yeah, and now I'm seeing how this issue can become serious. If they ask questions to, again, people in a position of authority like a teacher or like a parent or anyone that they need a response to, and they don't get a response when they ask, they'll stop asking.
But it's not even that. It could be behavioral cues as well, because teens don't like to talk. So if you're constantly on your phone and you're looking at your phone and not engaging with your child, you're going to miss these little behavioral cues that something might be going on.
I understand. Yeah, because you're not paying attention.
Exactly.
You're not being mindful. You're not being attentive.
Exactly.
I got it. All right. So again, just to review a little bit, to put a bow on this, it's not that a parent needs to immediately lock their phone in a drawer every time their child goes away. And also, if the parent is doing something important, like, for example, a phone call or an email or a text message, that's no problem. Deal with that. Do what you need to do. But when you're not doing something urgent and you're on your phone or your tablet, PC, or your computer and your child needs your attention, stop what you're doing and address them immediately.
Exactly. And but even if you are doing something important, it's important that you let the child know, I am doing something important at this time, because they can't tell the difference.
Yeah, right.
They
don't
just
know.
see you with your phone.
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't know if it's the football playoffs or the preseason.
Exactly.
There's a big difference there.
Huge difference. Huge.
All right. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Always fun and always a delight to have a chat with you on a Thursday afternoon. You have yourself a great week, and we'll talk again next time.
See you next week.
Stay with us for hour number 2. It'll be Galantis to wrap up the first today. No money.
Sorry, I ain't got no money.
Your Breaks of the World. BEFM 부산 영어방송.
구 년 전 한국에서의 새로운 출발을 위해 부산을 처음 찾은 프랭크. 부산의 자연과 사람, 부산에서 누리는 모든 것을 사랑하는 그는 부산의 변함없는 한데에 늘 감탄합니다.
I think that Busan people are actually very, very kind and very welcoming. If I seemed a little lost, there was always someone that was there to ask me if I needed help. They're more seriously friendly than it's very serious. I very seriously want to help you.
부산의 한결같은 모습도 늘 감동을 주지만 이제는 부산의 미래를 꿈꾸며 2030년 부산의 새로운 도약을 기대합니다.
Busan people are very proud of their city. They want to share the city with everyone. If we get the World Expo, it'll really put Busan on a global map.
세계 박람회가 어울리는 도시, 미래를 향한 힘찬 도약. 부산에서 출발한 파도는 이미 세계를 향해 뻗어 나가고 있습니다. 2030 부산 세계 박람회. 부산이 시작하고 대한민국이 함께 이뤄갑니다. 이 캠페인은 지역과 함께하는 든든한 동반자 BNK 부산은행과 함께합니다.
엑스포, 세계를 놀라게 할 준비됐습니까? 세상에 없던 세상을 바꿀 당신이 처음 만나는 새로운 엑스포의 시작. 오늘의 세상을 바꾸고 내일의 상상을 펼쳐갈 세계를 열광시킬 단 하나의 엑스포. 대한민국 첫 번째 월드클래스 엑스포 2030 부산 세계 박람회. 새로운 엑스포를 원해 부산에 유치해.
오나라와 시작하는 전국민 안전 캠페인 나부터 5초만. 우회전할 땐 5초만. 주의를 살펴주세요. 배송 전에 5초만. 헬멧부터 확인하세요. 빨리빨리 하기 전에 5초만 멈추면 모두의 안전이 계속됩니다. 공익광고협의회.
The time is now 3 o'clock.
You're listening to Steve Hatherly Reboot on BEFM 90.5. That was Crush, Crush, Crush by Paramore. And according to lead singer Hayley Williams, this song is about the dark side of having a crush, crush, crush on someone. This single came out in 2007. It won a Teen Choice Award for Choice Rock Track. It was also used briefly in NCIS, if you're curious to know. I never got into that show. It was in the episode called Stakeout. I don't know when that came out. On March 24th, 2016, the song was certified platinum in the United States for selling over 1 million copies. Maybe that was due to being on that NCIS episode. I'm not sure. If you don't know them, Paramore, they're an American rock band. They're from Tennessee. They formed in 2004. Second album came out in 2007. And then they had big singles on that record. Misery Business was one. Crush, Crush, Crush was another. They got their mainstream success from that, they say, and they were certified platinum in America. And now they're kind of a household name in America. Everybody seems to know who Paramore is, and Hayley Williams, the singer, as well. Yeah, NCIS. I don't know. I think is NCIS like what's that show I'm trying to think of with the police show? Not PD. What's that one? It was on TV like every day here in Korea. And CSI, thank you. CSI. Are you team NCIS or team CSI? Is that the way it is? Or like it was like you like the Rolling Stones and you like the Beatles, but you can't like both? Team Edward or Team Other Guy from that vampire movie? Maybe that's the case. I never got into NCIS. I was a huge CSI fan. Maybe that's why. What was your favorite CSI? Vegas? No. I like Ted Danson. I do like Ted Danson. He was one of the main characters in the CSI Las Vegas. I like him, but that wasn't my favorite. CSI New York was a little tough, I guess. Gary Sinise was in CSI New York, also a great actor. And it was okay. It was good, but it was a little tough for me. CSI Miami, in my opinion, was the best. And not only did it look great, because I don't know if you noticed this when you watched CSI Miami, but the characters would wear colors that looked like nature. Like they would wear things that looked like a pink flamingo or a blue ocean or a green tree or a blue sky. They were great about, the producers and directors of the show were great about doing that. So it just looked pretty all the time. And then David Caruso was the actor, right? And he would always put his sunglasses on right after saying something cool or something not cool. Actually, is what made it funnier. They'd ask him, like, what are you going to have for lunch today? And he'd be super dramatic, and he'd go, I'm going to have a sandwich. And then put his sunglasses on, and off he would go. I loved that show. I miss it. And it used to be on every day here. But I can't find it on TV anymore. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong spots. It doesn't matter. I think I've seen every single episode anyway. And that concludes my 6-minute talk about CSI. Now let's talk about what's coming up in hour number 2 of the show today. Fun fact of the day, the Beatles could not read music. I don't know if this is surprising to you or not. Maybe not. I mean, there's lots of examples of artists out there who can't read music. It's just something that they didn't bother learning how to do. But we will talk about that little fun fact today. After that, we'll go with the history of the boombox for today's Remember This. Really important piece of equipment, musically speaking. Not because of what it could do per se. I mean, yes, that too, actually. Let me retract that statement because it was important for what it could do. Before the boombox, people couldn't bring their music outside with them. People couldn't record anything that was happening in front of them. If they were outside in the streets or outside in a public location and there was something great happening musically, there was nothing that they could do to record that. Also, they couldn't take their record player outside with them. I mean, I guess you could if you set it up, but people didn't do that. And also their radios were big and cumbersome and you couldn't play them outside because you had to plug it in somewhere. The boombox changed all of that. It was a really important piece of equipment and also culturally in New York City as well. We'll talk a little bit about the history of the boombox. We'll also check out today's music and I will check in with your messages throughout the second hour as well. All right, question of the day today. It's not really a question, is it? I just need to know your name because I'm going to put you in a band. You are suddenly in a band, and I will tell you your band name. I use your name plus random adjective plus random noun. 여러분이 갑자기 밴드를 시작한다면 제가 밴드 이름을 알려드리겠습니다. 여러분의 이름을 알려주세요. 그거밖에 필요 없죠. All right, so let's make a couple of more. Who did we have in the first hour? We had Cheryl in the left basin. I don't think she was happy with that. You could feel her reaction, right? She was not particularly pleased with that. I felt bad. I was hoping it was going to be something surfing related, like Cheryl in the shark bites or something like that, but no, not at all. Jason in the shiny box, not my favorite from the first hour. Hannah and the mini shame takes the prize from hour number 1. But let's see what we can come up with in hour number 2. Shall we do a couple? Donghyo Nim is listening today. Chavo. Chavo means guy in Spanish, I think, right? Okay, you want to go with Chavo? Okay, let's do that. And I'll go over to my random adjective page. Chavo and the... this isn't... Okay, let's go over to the noun page now. Chavo, I don't know if you're going to like this one or not. Maybe. Oh. Chavo and the Wonderful Science. No, I don't see you. I don't see this band being successful. If I have choices, I'm going to go watch Jason in the Shiny Box before I watch Chavo and the Wonderful Science. Yeah, sorry. That's not going to be the winner in hour number 2. Let's do one more. Let's do Umberto. Umberto and the... Go to the adjective page. Umberto and... Has anyone actually been in a band before? I haven't. I kind of regret that. It's mostly because I have 0 musical ability. And they say if you want to be in a band, you need to have some. Umberto, you might like the start to this. Just getting your noun now. It's going to be Umberto and the Innate Exchange. Ooh. That's pretty good. That's like a legit band name. Umberto and the Innate Exchange. Oh, that's the winner so far in hour number 2. But there's lots of time left for you to tell me your name so that I can put you in a band. That is the deal in this second hour. Send me a message any way you want, and all I need is your name. You can text me ## 9050. That will cost you 100 won for texting in. You can add us on Kakao for free and send in messages for free by searching BEFM or Busan영어방송 in Korean. Same search on your smartphone. You can download the app from any of the app stores. You can listen to our programs there and leave us some comments after logging in. All right, let's get to our expression today. This is pretty good, actually. This is funny. It's a way that you can express yourself in a second language comedically. And that's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes, right? To make people laugh when you're speaking a second language. If you're speaking English as your second language or Korean, then it's hard sometimes to be funny using that language. So I'm going to help you out, I hope, with that today. So in this scene, the 3 girls, the 3 friends, they are sitting in a pub. No, this time I forget where they are. But anyway, they're drinking. These 3 are always drinking in this show. And one of the members of the group is expressing that they have not been to a club dancing in a long time. These 3 friends, they used to go to a club all the time, and they would always have fun dancing together, but they haven't done that in a very long time, and one of the friends expresses it like this. 클럽이 어떻게 생겼는지 기억도 안 나. All right, so let's chop the front part of that off. She said, 난 아예. Okay, we don't need that. So let's just go with club, 어떻게 생겼는지 기억도 안 나. All right, so what she said is, I don't even remember what a club looks like. She hasn't been to a club in such a long time. That's how she expresses it. I don't even remember what a club looks like. Okay, now let's take out club and let's make some different examples. Let's say that you are on a diet these days. And I ask you, how's your diet going? You know, like when was the last time you had pizza? You can answer like this. I don't even remember what pizza tastes like. Oh, pizza. Oh my gosh. I would love to have a pizza these days. You know, I don't even remember what a pizza tastes like. In Korean, I think that would be 피자 맛이 어떤지 기억도 안 나. 피자 맛이 어떤지 기억도 안 나. 요즘은 다이어트 어때? 맛있는 거 먹고 있어요? 아니요. 피자 진짜 먹고 싶은데. 근데 피자 맛이 어떤지 기억도 안 나. Why do I sound like I'm in a Korean historical drama? Maybe, did I just do my acting? Am I auditioning for something right now? But so, you see, this is a little bit sarcastic and it's a little bit fun and it's a great way to express yourself a little comedically. Let's give another example. Maybe you could say, I haven't been on vacation in such a long time. You can say, 공항 어떻게 생겼는지 기억도 안 나. I don't remember what an airport looks like. Oh, I apologize. I didn't explain that to you. 어떻게 생겼는지 means what something looks like, and 기억도 안 나, 기억 안 나 means I don't remember. 기억도 안 나 means I don't even remember. So, 공항, airport, 어떻게 생겼는지 기억도 안 나. Vacation? What? No, I don't even remember what an airport looks like. There you go. Good examples, right? In English and Korean, this is such a great way to express yourself with a little bit of humor. It's a little bit sarcastic. But I think when you can express yourself this way in a second language, it just shows another level of your personality, I think, which is always a great thing. Okay, so in this clip, she said, let's hear it one more time. She said, clubby. She said, I scratched it out. I forget what she said in the beginning. I erased it from my page. Anyway, then she says, clubby 어떻게 생겼는지 기억도 안 나.
난 아예 클럽이 어떻게 생겼는지 기억도 안 나.
All right, hopefully that helps out your English or your Korean, depending on which one you are studying. We'll take a break and come back with our fun fact of the day. We'll talk about the fact that the Beatles didn't know how to read music. Did it matter? Not really, not at all. But still, it's a fact, and we're going to talk about it. Here's Leon Ware first, Why I Came to California. That was Leon Ware, Why I Came to California. Now it's time for our fun fact of the day, and we're going to talk about the Beatles and maybe some others, actually, who never learned to read music, as surprising as that may be. Paul McCartney, on receiving an honorary fellowship at the Royal College of Music in 2017, said this: "This is kind of amazing for someone who doesn't read a note of music. None of the Beatles could either read or write conventional musical notation, which Paul McCartney would sometimes refer to as dots on a page. This was largely through choice, and it was not an unusual thing in guitar-based pop music. They were what Hollywood composers would call hummers, as in, you hum the tune and I'll play it. Doing this effectively relies on a very, very, very good ear, meaning the ability to identify and reproduce the pitch, and also on musical memory. These qualities were central to the Lennon and McCartney songwriting method. From the beginning, they applied a this is really interesting. They applied a catchiness test on every new song. So this is what they would do. At one session, they would kind of come up with a melody for the song, and then they would hum it. And then at the next session, when they were practicing again, if they couldn't remember it, they would totally forget about it. They would not try to remember. Why? Because they figured that it wasn't catchy enough. And if it wasn't catchy enough, then that means it's not going to be a hit. Only memorable melodies, this is what the Beatles thought, only memorable melodies would survive the ruthless jukebox jury of teenage radio listening. Nobody would like it if it wasn't catchy enough. So, how much did they understand music theory? Well, the Beatles started with a pragmatic musical ambition. They wanted to learn how to play the songs they liked. Unable to read sheet music, which, by the way, was not available for many of their favorites in any case, they relied on careful listening. And this enabled them to work out the words and the basic chord progression and the melody. Vocal harmonies, well, that was never really an issue for the Beatles. That came naturally to them, so that wasn't a problem. Aspiring pop musicians also shared details of chords and words and rhythms and melodies and strumming patterns with their peers. Most of the first meeting between John and Paul happened in that way. And then later, George and Paul helped John transfer the banjo chords that his mother had taught him over to the guitar. What he had learned on the banjo, they said, oh yeah, that's applicable to a guitar. Here's how you do that. And without recourse to textbooks or any type of YouTube tutorial that we would depend on these days, many musical discoveries were made by chance observation. It was actually a Slim Whitman concert poster that showed Paul McCartney that he could restring his guitar to play left-handed. Before seeing that poster, he had never heard of that before. He didn't know it was possible. Really, really interesting, right? The Beatles, they never learned how to play or how to read any type of sheet music whatsoever. George Martin was their producer, right? And in 1962, he was underwhelmed by his new signing by the Beatles. He thought, they don't really have that much potential. Their musicianship is quite crude. Their songs don't really sound impressive to me. Their variations on overworked or overfamiliar themes keep going and going and going, and there's nothing original there. So his first task was to help them or help bring them up to an acceptable commercial standard. For Please Please Me, he advised Lennon to speed up the tempo. So I'll kind of paraphrase how this article keeps going and what it says. What the Beatles used to do in the beginning, what Lennon and McCartney would do, is they would take chord progressions that they heard other artists play. For example, they really liked Roy Orbison. So they would listen to a Roy Orbison song and then copy those chord progressions or deconstruct them and rearrange them somehow, almost to the point that it was unrecognizable. But George Martin came in the early 1960s and said, if you speed up the tempo and if you rearrange the chords a little bit, then it won't be recognizable. And the Beatles became kind of geniuses at this, as a matter of fact. All led to their billions, 2 billion in album sales. So it turned out that this was not an issue. Not learning how to read music was not an issue for them at all. All right, so let's go over a few other artists, a few other musicians who couldn't read music. Number one on the list, this might be surprising to you, Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix only used his ears. He never learned how to read music. He depended on his ears fully and wholly and his musical intuition to create some of the most iconic guitar solos of all time. He just used his ears and whatever he thought sounded good. Unbelievable. Here's another surprise. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson could not read music. And nobody can argue about Michael Jackson's musical worth. But yep, couldn't read music. Here's another one. Hans Zimmer. Do you recognize that name, Hans Zimmer? Soundtracks, film soundtracks, right? Yeah. Musical resume, unbelievable. Film resume, unbelievable. But he can't read music. I couldn't believe it when I saw his name on this list. Eddie Van Halen's on here. Eric Clapton is on here. Paul McCartney, we talked about the Beatles. Bob Dylan is on here. Slash from Guns N' Roses is here. Prince is here as well. Taylor Swift is here as well. Aretha Franklin. I mean, it's almost like there's more artists who can't read sheet music than can. Such a cool list. We'll go with this song next. That's going to be our fun fact of the day today. Yeah, it's interesting to learn how many successful artists can't read sheet music. So if you're a young person out there, or even a person who's interested in becoming maybe an amateur musician or learning how to play the guitar or something like that, and you can't read sheet music, turns out you don't really have to. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll have today's Remember This, and we'll talk about the history of the boombox. Here is Paul McCartney, Seize the Day. That was Paul McCartney, Seize the Day. My favorite Paul McCartney story that I ever read was he went to an after party somewhere in New York or L.A. after an awards ceremony one night. It was after like the Grammys or something, and they went to a club after party. And Paul McCartney tried to go in the side door to the club where the famous people or invited people go in. And when he got out of his car and got to the bouncer, the security bouncer at the door, the guy said, "No, you can't come in here." And Paul McCartney said, I guess I got to sell some more records before I can come in here. The guy didn't recognize that it was Paul McCartney. But here's the cool thing. Paul McCartney didn't say, "Hey, do you know who I am?" No, he didn't say that. He just said, "Okay." And then he went to a different party. They interviewed the guy later, and he was like, "Oh, my gosh, I am such an idiot. I had no idea." Anyway, that just came to mind. Let's talk about the history of the boombox. In case you don't know, and Napidi has just put it on my YouTube home screen there. You can see it now. That's a boombox, in case you don't know what that is. A boombox was a large stereo rectangle, basically, that you could put batteries inside and carry it outside and play music, and it made music available for people outside. The boombox, it had this big metal casing. It had at least 2 big speakers, and sometimes they would have even more than 2 speakers. And these features are very different from the perhaps Bluetooth speakers that we can take with us today. They're so expensive sometimes. They're so cute and pretty sometimes. They're so fashionable. But boomboxes, they were huge. They were cumbersome. They were inconvenient. And they were awesome because they revolutionized. It was an innovation that represented a critical moment in the history of outdoor audio. So let's go back to the beginning. All right, well, although the boombox has strong cultural associations with New York hip-hop culture, the first model was in fact developed in the Netherlands. The Dutch company Philips released their first radio recorder in 1966. It was the Norelco 22RL962. Radio broadcast and audio from a microphone could now be recorded directly onto cassette tapes for the very first time. It was powered by a 6D cell battery, more than one, and this initial model included a handle and was fully portable to go on the road with you and record wherever you were. Interestingly, boomboxes also grew popular in Japan in the early 1970s. The mass migration of young people from the Japanese countryside to urban spaces coincided with the development of the boombox. Within these claustrophobic and condensed cities, the boombox represented the most viable hi-fi option to broadcast music. Boomboxes in America, though, they didn't get there until the late 1970s. There was an interview on a music documentary, an NPR music documentary. It was called The History of the Boombox. And they interviewed hip-hop historian Fab Five Freddy. And he described how New York hip-hop culture popularized the use of the boombox. It was a new portable device at the time that allowed for recordings to be made directly onto cassette tape. Young people would often go to inner-city parties with their boombox. They would bring it with them. And here, they would make live cassette recordings of the music being mixed. The dissemination of these tapes was the way in which many listeners across the city came into contact with the sounds of hip-hop for the very first time. Prioritizing volume and bass above all else, the boombox became the favored musical vehicle for hip-hop artists. In the early 1980s, mid-1980s, hip-hop was largely absent from mainstream radio channels, and the boombox empowered young people, young African Americans, young Hispanic youth to easily record and share their own tracks detailing their own life narratives. As an entirely portable device, the boombox was an important symbol for the democratization of music making. And by the end of the 80s, Well, the popularity had waned at that time. It started to dwindle in its popularity. Technological achievements facilitated the invention of smaller and more subtle audio players that were compatible with CDs and MP3 tracks. The cultural shift towards private individual listening devices can be followed through to the 21st century invention of the Apple Pod. Oh, I did that backwards. Sorry about that. Brand name mistake. Where every new model released seems to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think we can say that that's still happening these days, right? Well, anyway, there was a point in time that that's all we could do. That's all young people could do, to listen to music outside. And think about that. If you're living in New York City and you're interested in, you go to a block party, right? Or you go to any kind of party where there's music being played, you could record that music onto your cassette tape, and then you could take it home and you could share it with your friends. That was massive because hip hop, like I said, it didn't get a lot of airplay on the radio. So this was really the only way that people could get to hear what wasn't being played right in front of them. Such an important part of musical history, and pretty cool looking too. I'd like to have a couple of these things. I plan to have a couple of these things when I get to my retirement age. I want to have some big old school speakers. I want to connect those somehow, some way to a couple of old school boom boxes. I want some old school on-air signs from a retired radio station, perhaps somewhere. I plan to do all this at some point in the future, but hopefully for me, we're not quite there yet. That is a brief history of the boombox, and that is today's Remember This. We'll come back with Today in Music after Tom Gregory, Never Look Back.
Should we let our
That was Tom Gregory, Never Look Back, and now it's time for Today in Music. We'll find out what happened in today's music history as we look at the musical calendar and roll it back. It is August 17th today, and we'll start in 1958. Born on this day, happy birthday, Belinda Carlisle, singer from the all-female American rock band The Go-Go's, who had the 1982 singles We Got the Beat and Our Lips Are Sealed. Their 1981 debut record, Beauty and the Beat, is considered one of the cornerstone albums of U.S. new wave music. In 1959, American jazz musician Miles Davis released his masterpiece, Kind of Blue, which featured such compositions as So What, All Blues, and Blue in Green. Regarded as the greatest jazz album of all time by a multitude of critics, Kind of Blue found the trumpeter experimenting with his sound, allowing each performer to have a wide berth with their improvisations. In 1968, The Doors' third album, Waiting for the Sun, hit #1 in America thanks to the hit Hello, I Love You. They recorded that track after scrapping their plans to put a Jim Morrison poetry piece called Celebration of the Lizard on the entire first side. It's a great song, Hello, I Love You, but I'm also very curious to hear Celebration of the Lizard. 1969, on the final day of Woodstock, it closed out with sets by Country Joe and the Fish, and Paul Butterfield Blues Band, The Who, Jimi Hendrix, and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, among others. The three-day festival hosted more than 400,000 attendees and featured 32 different bands. Huge event. In 2003, born on this day, Australian singer, rapper, and songwriter The Kid Laroi. His debut mixtape peaked at #1 on the Australian charts, making him the youngest Australian solo artist ever to reach the top of the chart. The Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber's 2021 hit Stay peaked at #1 on the U.S. charts for 7 consecutive, non-consecutive weeks. And finally, in 2011, Last Friday Night by Katy Perry hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making her just the second artist with 5 #1 singles from the same album, Teenage Dream. The other 5-time chart topper, Michael Jackson's Bad. Here we go with a couple of tunes from the artists we talked about from Today in Music. Here is Belinda Carlisle, Heaven is a Place on Earth, and The Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber, Stay. I asked you today about... I didn't ask you anything. I asked you what your name was because I wanted to put you in a band today, and all I needed was your name to do so, and I would fill in the rest by using your name and then and then I would search on the internet for a random adjective and a random noun. And we got some pretty good names. In the first hour, Hannah and the Mini Shame. I want to see that performance. I want to see Umberto and the Innate Exchange. That album's going to be a hot one when it drops. So let's do a few more. Songdok, you texted me and said, please give me a cool name. All right. Well, I can't promise cool because we had some in the first hour that were just okay, right? All right, so it's going to be Songdok and I'm generating your noun. Oh, this is kind of weird. Songdok and the Quizzical Economics. That's what genre is that? I don't know what genre that would fall into. The Quizzical Economics. It sounds like smart. Sounds like a smart group though. I don't know, Songdok. What do you think? Are you happy with that one or not? Let's do Na. Let's do Na PD. Okay. Okay, got your adjective. Let's do your noun, Na PD. Na and the Ripe Mall. That doesn't even make sense. The Ripe Mall. Okay, let's do me. Someone asked Steve, don't forget to do your own. Okay, I got my adjective, doing my noun. Steve and the Makeshift Chairs. Oh, that's not bad. It sounds like some sort of like New York East Village like indie band that nobody really likes, but they've heard of once or twice, right? Do I have time to do Nick and David before I go? 4 p.m. duos coming up next here on BEFM 90.5. Don't change your radio station, please. Let's do David first. David, you out there, by the way? David, okay, here's your band name. David and the Wholesale Joke. Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. And Nick, let's do yours before we say goodbye today. You are going to be Nick and the Elven... Oh, this is weird. Nick and the Elven Reaction. Oh, that might be the winner today. That is very close. That's very up there with Hannah and the Mini Shame and Humberto and the Innate Exchange. Nick and the Elven Reaction might be the winner today. Well done. All right, that's enough of that for this afternoon. Let's say goodbye, shall we? That'll do it for Steve Hatherly Reboot for this afternoon. Thank you very much for being with me over the last couple of hours today. Hope you very much enjoyed the program. Thank you to Cheryl for today's Parenting 101. Thank you to you, as always, for your listenership and your participation. I've been your host, Steve Hatherly, and I'll leave you with this today. It's the Goo Goo Dolls' Iris. Enjoy that. Enjoy your day, and we'll reboot again tomorrow.